We now know the candidates who have qualified for the December debate. There's going to be fewer people than the previous debates and more time for the contenders to actually argue their policy differences, if the questions are good, of course.
Though with the looming impeachment vote and the upcoming holidays, just how many people are actually going to watch these debates to hear the candidates make their cases? Will it make a difference at all? Joining us now to share his thoughts is Hill reporter Max Greenwood. Great to see you, Max.
You too, Crystal.
Yeah.
So one thing that we've seen is debate after debate after debate, the ratings trend lower and lower and lower. People lose interest. But on the other hand, first time you have a little bit of a smaller field, people, getting down to it, some of the top contenders, people will have more time. So what do you think? Is this going to have an impact?
I don't know if it's going to have an impact, and I think part of it is because the timing is really bad. December 19th, so 6 days before Christmas.
Right.
People are leaving town for the holidays. They're just tuning out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but what families love to do
I was gonna
is
say,
gather together at the
and
holidays and watch
debates.
political debates.
Yeah.
But I think, listen, with the smaller stage, we might get a more substantive policy debate that we haven't seen in the past. It's really hard to have a really meaningful debate when you have 10 or 11 people on the stage at a time.
Yeah.
So, people might start to tune in. We're getting closer to the Iowa caucuses and the first primaries. So, this is really the last time this year to make an impact before voters go home.
We should say we just got this DNC announcement on the next 4 debates. So the first one is going to be on January 14th, CNN after this. So that's a big deal, right? That's 2 weeks before Iowa, really right in the thick of things, probably right in the middle of a Senate impeachment trial. But after that, February 7th, right in between Iowa and in between New Hampshire. I think that's probably going to be the most watched debate. And then after that, 2 before South Carolina. So that's quite a bit there to shake a lot of stuff up.
And that's a whole lot. We have 3 debates in February alone. So
right.
the 7th, the 19th, and the 25th, just right on the verge of each of those primaries.
Right.
So I think February is going to be a whirwwind.
That's going to be an exciting time, I think. There.
It's going to be an exciting time after Iowa. We're going to have a better sense of who's got momentum. New Hampshire is going to be closely watched to see, who can pull off a win there, and then of course Nevada and South Carolina. So these debates are probably going to matter the most. They're going to have the most impact on voters, the most immediate impact. Right now, we're still so far out. We've been far out for this past year. So the debates feel more nebulous, more theoretical than they do, a real competition. So I think when we have these debates centered around the primaries and the caucuses, it's going to be just enormously impactful.
And we got to remember, if this is when the Republican race actually shook up the most back in 2016. Remember, Marco Rubio had the disastrous debate performance, Chris Christie, and just sunk. He went from a guy who was probably going to get second to like 6th in the state. So
Christie just blew him up, and then he dropped out of the race.
Completely. But look, we should at least talk about, I do think we can all agree this thing is going to be a snooze, but we've got 7 candidates that are going to be on the stage. Tulsi Gabbard, regardless of whether she qualifies or not, she has said she's not going to be there, Max. What can we expect this time around? Last time I would have said everybody's going after Pete. I would probably say the same this time, although he's beginning to sink.
Well, though last time he didn't actually go after Pete.
Yeah,
this
nobody
time they
did.
really well.
No, and if you remember last time, Kamala Harris had a really clear opportunity to go after Pete.
Oh yeah, they rolled the ball to her.
And
please.
she punted on it.
Well, she's gone now. So.
And you're right, and she's gone now. So I think what we're going to be looking for here is who's going after Pete. I think it's going to be Elizabeth Warren. They have been going at it for weeks over transparency. She's taken shots at his McKinsey clients, at his not letting reporters into his fundraisers, not releasing lists of bundlers, and of course, he's promised to do all that now. He's released his clients when he was working at McKinsey. So I think he's hoping in doing that, he's taking that off the table as a point of attack next week. But there's still a lot of frustration among progressives with Pete Buttigieg. With kind of this idea that he's shifted to a more moderate stance over the past 9 months or so. They've called him Wall Street Pete. I think you were mentioning this earlier. There's progressives online calling for Buttigieg to return his donations.
Yeah, people who donated to him who are wanting their money back, progressives, because they feel like he shifted, shifted on his policies.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a ripe opportunity for both Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders if he so desires to go after Pete.
Yeah, I'm sure too that the moderators, because this Warren-Pete thing has been going on back and forth, they'll do that thing that they do. They're basically like, say it to his face, you know what
Yes,
I mean?
right,
And
right.
sometimes the candidates take the opportunity, other
Elizabeth
times they
Warren,
don't.
yeah.
But she needs to, because he's really eaten into her support. I mean, partly she fell because of her own flaws, her own, poor handling of healthcare as an issue. But he's really the one that has benefited from her decline. He's the one that's taken her supporters away. So there's good reason for her to try to go after him and show what she believes are some of his shortcomings.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I was talking to a few folks in Iowa yesterday who were, telling me, listen, if you're a Bernie Sanders supporter, you're sticking with Bernie Sanders. A lot of Joe Biden supporters are sticking with Joe Biden.
Very committed people.
You have Warren and Buttigieg who are still vying for these undecided voters. That's their universe right now.
And you know what, Max? I think there's just too many candidates for these undecideds to be able to make their mind. They have flavors in them. They have Buttigieg, they have Warren, they had Kamala before that. They have a lot. It's about what, maybe 25, 30% of the Democratic primary electorate in these early states. But because there's so many people, now they got Bloomberg, right? He's like 5%. He's bought 5% of their support with all of his TV ads.
Steyer bought a few percent too.
Steyer's also. Steyer's at 9% in the early primary polls. I wish people paid more attention to that. I do think, though, that this is increasingly narrowing. Crystal and I have been talking about Joe Biden and Bernie. It seems to be a two-person race. Increasingly. The fundamentals for Warren to turn it around in 8 weeks seem unlikely, given all these dynamics. What do you think?
Well, I wouldn't go as far as to say it's a two-person race between Biden and Sanders.
I say increasingly narrow.
It's
winnowing.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they are, the number 1 and 2 in national polls. Both of them are outperforming Elizabeth Warren and Pete Buttigieg in South Carolina. But at the same time, let's look at Iowa, the first caucus state. Elizabeth Warren and Pete Buttigieg, you can ask any Democratic operative in that state, and they'll tell you they have by far the best operations.
Yes.
They have field offices everywhere. They have numerous organizers and volunteers in a way that's really unmatched. So I wouldn't write them off yet.
No.
And they're both, looking to make a splash in Iowa. They both want that top spot.
Yeah.
It's getting nasty right now. I'm curious to see if, that little spat between them does any damage, enough to hurt both of them. But I think right now there's still a very real possibility that they come out on top in Iowa.
What does it say about the way that this process has changed that Andrew Yang makes the stage and Cory Booker doesn't?
I think, listen, Andrew Yang has an incredibly devoted following. He's a compelling speaker. I was listening to an interview with him this weekend, and I was kind of moved by him. He's candid, he's genuine, and I think he really does. He's a great example of the kind of candidate that can break through because of the internet.
Yeah, he is unlike anything else that politics has seen in a long time.
No,
Yeah.
and he's established a strong and reputable voice mainly online, and it is incredible that that's actually transforming now into a debate stage presence that even a sitting senator, 2 sitting senators, can't.
And a billionaire.
And a billionaire.
Yeah.
All right, Max. Thanks,
Thanks,
man.
Max.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
We'll have more Rising for you after this.